daffodils, etc. He says that all these flowers should be strewn hearse of over the hearse of Lycidas. For so to interpose to a little case, let our frail thoughts dally with false surmise. Ah me, whilst thee the sore and sounding seas wash far away, wherever thy bones are hurled, where whether beyond the stormy Hebrides, where though perhaps under the whelming tide visit the bottom of the monstrous world, or whether though to our moist was denied, sleepest by the fable of Bavarius old, where the great vision of the guarded mount look towards Namicos and Bayona's hold, look homeward, angel, now and melt with truth. Here in this poem lines, the poet says that in the aforesaid lines, the poet imagines that um, uh, he is standing before the hearse of Lycidas, um, and and he addresses the muse to strewn all the multicolored flowers on Lycidas' hearse or his grave. But then he reminds himself that the body of Lycidas could not be found, because he drowned in the sea and his body could not be found. So he says that he says that where his bones were, whether his bones are washed far away to the islands Hebrides, or to the uh, mount, where all the uh, mm, all the brave person go after death. And oh ye dolphins, swept the hopeless youth. O ye dolphins, swept the hapless youth, weep no more, woeful shepherds, weep no more, for Lycidas, your sorrow is not dead. Here in these poem lines, the poet gives a hope. Uh, in in the in all the lines which the poet has written before it, he laments the death of Lycidas. But here in these lines, the poet gives a hope, and he asked dolphins who are familiar to mankind, uh, and uh, and he asked to shepherds to weep no more, to not to feel sad, for Lycidas is not dead. Sunk though he be beneath the watery floor, so sinks the day stars in the ocean bed, and yet unknown repairs his drooping head, and tricks his beams, and with new spangled ore flames in the forehead of the morning sky, just as a sun uh, drowns in the sea at sunset, and it rises again in the next morning with with brightness. And in the same way, Lycidas has not died. He has descended, and he will appear again like a sun in heaven. He means to say that Lycidas has gone to heaven, so they should not feel sorry. Though through the dear might of him that walked the waves, where other groves and other streams along, with nectar pure his oozy locks he laves, and hears the unexpressive nuptial song, and hears the unexpressive nuptial song. And here's the unexpressive nuptial song. Where other grows and other streams along, through the dear might of him that walked the waves, and where other grows and other streams along, with nectar pure his oozy locks he laves, and hears the unexpressive nuptial song. Here the poet says that with the help of Jesus Christ, who has the power to walk on the waves, Lycidas will be able to rise in the heaven, and he will wash his uh, hair, which have become dirty in the in the in the mire of uh, sea, at the bottom of the sea. With nectar pure his oozy locks he lives, and he will wash his hairs with nectar in the heaven. And hears the unexpressive nuptial song, and he will hear musical sounds in the heaven, and hears the in the blessed kingdoms meek of joy and love, where he will in the heaven he where joy and love rule, means he will find joy and love in the heaven, and he will hear musical sounds there. In solemn troops, in solemn troops, in solemn troops and sweet societies that sing and singing in their gory mow, in solemn troops and sweet societies that sing and singing in their gory mow, and wipe the tears forever from his eyes. Now Lycidas the shepherds weep no more. He says that Lycidas is now in good company in heaven. Uh, so they should wipe their tears, because Lycidas and he asked all the shepherds to not to weep anymore. Henceforth thou art the genius of the sword in thy large compens, and shalt be good to all that wander in that perilous flood. He says that Lycidas from now on would be the guardian spirit of the shore where he had drowned, and he will warn others um, of dangers which lie in the sea. Thus saying the uncouth swain to the oaks and rills, thus sang the uncouth swain to the oaks and rills, while the still morn went out with sadness grey. He touched the tender stops of various quills, with eager thought warbling his Doric lay, and now the sun had stretched out all the hills, and now was dropped into the western bay. At last he rose and twisted his mantle blue, tomorrow to fresh woods and pastures new. In all these in all these lines, uh, in in the lines in except these 8 lines in whole of poetry, uh, the poet Milton is speaking as a shepherd, but in these last 8 lines, which are an epilogue, he speaks directly as a poet. He says that, thus saying the uncouth swain to the oaks and rills. He says that this shepherd sang this unskilled song, while the still morn went out with sandals grey. He touched the tender stops of various quills, with eager thought warbling his Doric lay, And now the sun had stretched out all the hills and now was dropped into the western bay. At last he rose and twisted his mantle blue tomorrow to fresh woods and pastures new. In these lines, the poet says the that he has um, the poet has sung the whole song since morning, and in the morning, since whole morning he had been singing the song about Lycidas with his flute, and with eager thoughts warbling historically. And now the sun had stretched out all the hills, and now it is the time of evening, and the sun has throwing shadow of hills and trees. The sun has throwing long shadows of hills, and means it has the evening has appeared. At last he rose, and during that time in the evening he rose, and he wore his blue mantle, because it is the time he feels a little chill in the evening. And he says that for tomorrow he will have to do new works, and fresh woods and fresh pastures new. It means he says that from the task of writing poetry or singing a song on the memory of in the memory of Lycidas has been done, and tomorrow he will do new duties, other duties. So in this poem, the poet Milton gives a tribute to his friend Edward King through this poem, in which he imagines himself a shepherd and Lycidas as his fellow shepherd. Through in the whole of the poem, in most of the poem, um, he laments the fact of Lycidas' death, but in the last, but but in the la- but at last he gives a hope. He gives a hope that Lycidas has not died and he has gone into the heaven. So shepherds and his other and nature should not make sorrow and should not feel sorrow on the death of Lycidas. Thank you.